Hey everybody, Pete with Optics for Birding here again. I've got a very special review video for you with one of our favorite binoculars of all time. This is the Zeiss Victory SF, which if you haven't already had the pleasure of looking through it before, I really do encourage you to go try one. These are arguably the best binoculars on the market. Some people might debate me on that, some people might agree. I think that they're really tied for first place with some of the other binoculars that I won't mention now because we have another video about that. But today we're just going to be looking at these in a vacuum, and I'm going to try to give you guys a sense of why they're so amazing, why they're so expensive, which is, the biggest question is like, well, why do I want to spend 3 times the money on something else and get these versus, what Zeiss has down the chain. So once again, this is the Zeiss Victory SF, which stands for Smart Focus, and here is your review video. Let's get into it. All right, so let's start with the nomenclature a little bit. I mentioned, the name SF doesn't stand for San Francisco. Victory is the label that Zeiss puts on all of their top-end products. So, this is their best birding binocular in the market. They have their Victory HT binoculars, which are a bit more specialized for hunting and twilight viewing. They've got their Victory Harpia spotting scope, which, obviously it's a spotting scope, not really a binocular, but then they've got their Victory pocket binoculars, the Victory FL, which are discontinued now. But just essentially what that means is that it's one of their top-end products and that they cut no corners when it comes to making these. The term SF means smart focus, and that's all thanks to this focusing system that they have here. It is the fastest, quickest, smoothest focus wheel on the market, I think, and the reason that so many birders gravitate toward it is because birders are constantly shifting the focus wheel back and forth, and you never want that to get in your way while you're using them. So I really do think that this lives up to the name Smart Focus, because that focus wheel, number one, is extremely smooth. I mean, you can almost blow on the thing and it'll move for you. It's that smooth, which is where a lot of the lower quality binoculars fall short. Number two, it's really hard to illustrate this in a video because you can't look through the binoculars yet, but it takes fewer revolutions for this focus wheel to go from close focus to infinity, which again, when you're bird watching, and you want to transition from something that's right above you in a tree to maybe something soaring in the background, having a really quick focus system that's not going to get in your way, not be stiff, it's paramount. So that, again, is one of the main reasons that a lot of birders gravitate toward this specifically. But we have a lot of customers, for example, that have like arthritis in their hands or any other physical ailment that makes it hard for you to move the different parts of a binocular as opposed to just holding it still. So if that sounds like you, that I think is a really important consideration when you're buying your binoculars. Which one is going to get in your way less, which one is going to be easier for you to use, which one's going to let you transition between near and far or vice versa the quickest. And for a lot of folks, it comes down to the Victory SF that Zeiss makes. It's really just a perfect focus system. On top of that, one of the things that they were going for when they came up with this design is when you grip the binoculars, the focus wheel should be right where your index finger naturally lies. It shouldn't be way up here. It shouldn't be way down here. You shouldn't have to do any extra work to actually get your finger to go there. So, if you just leave the binocular sitting on the table and you grab it from the side, you can see that my finger doesn't really have to skew up or down, left or right, side to side, that kind of thing. So no matter who's holding the binoculars, typically even for people with large hands or small hands or anywhere in the middle, they have access to that focus wheel really easily, and that just makes the experience a lot more enjoyable for them because they don't have to fight it. The next ergonomic kind of benefit on the Victory SF is, again, a little bit hard to demonstrate in the video because you guys you're not holding my hands and seeing how this feels, but the idea was, let's stop making people work so hard to lift up their binoculars and turn them into power lifters so that they can do some bird watching or some hunting. We want the binoculars to feel weightless in their hands so that they can just enjoy the experience more. And the Victory SF does that really well. So you might have just seen, I actually did that by accident, I promise. I was holding them with one hand and they went back like that. And that was actually a perfect demonstration of what they accomplished with these, which is shifting the weight way back toward the eyepiece, as opposed to a lot of traditional binoculars. They have a lot of weight concentrated on the front end, so your hands end up doing a lot of the heavy lifting. With the Victory SF, it's completely the opposite. A lot of the weight is back toward the eyepiece, so they tilt back right into your eye sockets, and it feels like your hands are holding a lot less. So especially if you're going to be out in the field for a long period of time, having something that feels weightless is way more important than if you're just taking a quick glance at something and putting the binoculars down. So if you're really trying to study a bird really hard and say, okay, well, what species is that? What mark should I be looking for? you don't want to get distracted by, my binoculars are so heavy, I'm tired of holding them up. So you want that part of the experience to be taken care of, and that, that's one of the other reasons that this is such a popular binocular, is that the weight being back in your eye sockets, it just lets you focus more on the birds, and that's kind of the name of the game. I've said this in multiple videos so far, so sorry if I sound like a broken record, but really what you want is for the binoculars to be an extension of your hands and an extension of your eyes. So the less little gimmicky moving parts and heavy parts of the binoculars that you have to focus on, the more that you're going to be able to focus on nature and what's going on the important end of your binoculars, not on you. So just to reiterate, that focusing system and the balance, which Zeiss calls like their ERGOBALANCE concept, it's the combination of that with the SMARTFOCUS concept, it really just makes these a breeze to hold for a long period of time and stay focused on the birds. Now let's get into the image quality a little bit, because that's probably why most of you are here, is you're looking for the binocular with the highest image quality possible. And I think that the Victory SF does that as good, if not better than anybody else. Starting with the objective lenses, Zeiss is using what they call their UFL objective lens system, which means like ultra fluoride glass. And without getting into too much detail, fluoride crystal is like a naturally occurring mineral that has lower light dispersion properties than any other type of glass that you can find. So mixing that in with the glass that they make, it gives you less color dispersion, which means less chromatic aberration. And for those of you who are not familiar with that, basically it means that the colors are going to come to focus at a point more, as opposed to splitting up and giving you this color blurry image where you start seeing purple and yellow at the border of something black and white. So if you wanted to test that in person, the best way to do it is to find like a traffic sign or like a white car with a black wheel well. Look right at the border and see if you see any purple or yellow or green splitting out at that border, and that's how you know chromatic aberration is not controlled very well. And something like the Victory SF, on the other hand, that's going to be virtually invisible. You might be able to find it if you look at the edge of the field of view at those really high contrast objects that I mentioned, but just talking in a practical sense, it's virtually invisible when you're out in the field looking at birds and deer and things like that. So that's the objective lens system. Moving back a little bit, I did mention at the beginning of this video that Zeiss has what they call their Victory HT binoculars, which the HT stands for high transmission, which is also a type of glass that SCHOTT makes. And they do have some of those lens elements in here to give you as much light transmission as you can possibly get out of these. So that, combined with Zeiss's what they call their T-star coating, which minimizes the reflection on the surface of the lens, those two things work in tandem to deliver as much of the light that you can possibly get to your eye. Right now, probably the gold standard for light transmission in a roof prism binocular like this is 92%. And that's what the Victory SF has. And there are competitors to the Victory SF that are lower, and even though it might only be 1 or 2 percentage points, you can definitely see the difference in really, really low light conditions. Like if you're going deer hunting and you're looking at first light and you're trying to find something that's really, really hard to see, the extra light transmission in this guy can actually make a huge difference. So again, 91 versus 92 or 90, not really night and day, but when you're getting into really, really poor lighting conditions, sometimes that can make the difference between spotting something and letting it fade into the background. Once again, 92% light transmission is about as high as we can get right now in a roof prism binocular, and that's what the Victory SF has. All right, so moving back from the objective lens, now we're going to get to the prism, which Zeiss is using the best quality prism glass that you can find. They're using their P-star coating, which is their phase correction coating that keeps the light waves in alignment, essentially, without getting too geeky. And basically, it just means that you're losing less light through the prism that you would lose with lower quality binoculars. So all of that, is kind of goes in tandem with the other lenses that I talked about to get every little photon to your eye so that you're getting a bright image. Moving even further back toward the eyepiece, that's where some of the real magic happens. Number one, they're using a field flattening lens system, which is responsible for giving you like a distortion-free view everywhere, so that you don't get the pin cushion or the barrel distortion that is not really as much of an issue with modern binoculars, but certainly something that is nice to have. That way, everything is not misshapen, everything is nice and flat. You don't get straight lines bending in or barreling out. So the field flatteners are what help for that. Secondly, the field of view on these is pretty extraordinary. So the 10x42 that I have in my hand is 360 feet at 1,000 yards, which is way wider than most binoculars that came before this. The 8x42 is even crazier. It's got 444 feet at 1,000 yards, which is just, I mean, if you're equipped with a binocular like that, it's going to be very hard to miss birds unless, you know, they're completely out of your field of view. But, you know, one of the reasons that this does get so pricey is that they have the highest quality eyepieces that you can find that let you cover more ground without any stuff that distracts you at the periphery of your field of view. So really, really useful when, you know, you're focused on one bird in the center. You don't have branches that have, you know, chromatic aberration or that are misshapen on the sides, because that really just, it all of a sudden it makes your brain focus on something else instead of the bird. And once again, the idea is to be focused on nature, not on your binoculars, not on your periphery. So those are all, you know, I think I've covered all the way from the objective to the eyepiece now. Some other talking points about the Victory SF specifically are, you know, Zeiss does give you a binocular that's made in Germany by their best engineers. Secondly, with this one in particular, as well as some of their other high-end optics, you do get that 5-year no-fault policy that takes care of any accidental damage within the first 5 years, as long as it's not obviously a result of like misuse. So I would say don't use this to hammer in nails. Don't run over it with your car if you can avoid it. But accidents do happen. You know, if you're outdoors, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong, right? So if you drop your binoculars on a rock, as has happened to plenty of our customers, as long as you register the binocular within 60 days after you purchase it, and I'm going to stress that again, you have to register it within 60 days to get that no-fault policy. Zeiss will, on their dime, replace this thing or repair it for free, as long as it's clearly a result of an accident and not misuse. So, you know, when you're making that kind of an investment, and again, as of March of 2024, when this video is being filmed, this is $3,000 bucks. And having that peace of mind, knowing that if an accident happens in the field, you have the ability to get it swapped out for free, it's just some peace of mind that's nice to have for a lot of folks. And that ultimately can be the decision maker between this versus a competitor, is having that extra cushion in the warranty. So on top of that, of course, you know, they do cover any manufacturer defect in writing. It's standard nowadays for high quality binoculars like this to have a limited lifetime warranty, meaning, you know, in general, accidents that occur 20 years down the road are not covered. However, any defect that they determine to be a manufacturer error, they're going to fix it for free on their dime. It's really, I think, a remarkable piece of birding equipment. It's, once again, a beautiful image. It's bright. It's got crazy good glass that you can use to identify really tiny, you know, subtleties at long distances. And specifically for those people that like shore birding, for instance, where you have so many different birds that look so similar to each other and you need really, really high quality optics to distinguish those little details. Something like the Victory SF can really be helpful because, number one, it's got that sharp image that you need. It's got that brightness that you need in low light conditions that its competitors don't necessarily have quite as much of. And on top of that, I think really the ergonomics are what make this so remarkable, because you've got a binocular that's really easy to hold for a long period of time without getting tired, particularly for those folks of you that, you know, might have arthritis in your hands and your elbows and your wrists. And the focus wheel is just so superb because you can really, really easily turn it. Again, even more important if you have an ailment like that. And secondly, you know, if you're trying to make sure that you can keep up with the birds, obviously you bird photographers know that they don't like to sit still for us. It's the same thing when you're just trying to stare at them, even not taking a picture. They like to jump around and make your life difficult. So getting a binocular that can focus really quickly and easily, that's a good way to combat that. So, all right, so I'm going to leave it at that for now because I think that I've given as much of an objective review as I can possibly give. Once again, this is the Zeiss Victory SF. I could write a book about how much I love these things, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. And if you don't think that all of your questions have been answered in this video, I do encourage you guys to reach out to us on social media. You can always get a hold of us at 877-674-2473 if you wanted to chat by phone. I'd love to talk your ear off about these things and just tell you how amazing they are and see if, number one, they're the right ones for you, and if not, what else might be better. So, of course, as always, there's no shortage of information on our website. You can always go to opticsforbirding.com to learn more. But once again, this has been another review video from Optics for Birding. My name is Pete. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.